I don't know why people thought that people were only born with XX chromosomes or XY, but that's not true. Runaway sirens, it's okay, that's not the case. Not everyone is just born with XX chromosomes or XY. Some people are born with both. It's totally fine that some people are born with one sex over the other or born with both sexes. I don't understand why you need to erase the fact that some people are born both sexes when it has nothing to do with transgender people. Transgender people cannot identify as both sexes, one sex that they're not, either if that's both sexes, female, male. The only sex you can identify with is the one that you have. Okay, so if you are XX female, you're a female, obviously. From my perspective on this, too, because you start talking about people who had like androgen insensitivity syndrome and congenital adrenal hyperplasia. And for me, I personally do not consider those people to be intersex personally, but I have talked to some people with those type of conditions. They want to say that they are intersex. I do not say that they're not to them specifically because why? What's my point in just telling them that? Like, they know what's going on in their body. They know they're genetically a male or female. So, you know, but you can't just say that people who have congenital adrenal hyperplasia represent everybody who has both sexes. Because that person is not specifically someone who actually has both sexes. That's a person who is just female, who happens to have a lot of androgen in their system. Someone with androgen insensitivity syndrome has androgen in their system, they just can't process it. And because of that, they look female, but they have every trait within them that is specifically male. I think you have a problem with understanding pseudo-hermaphroditism. It's a term. You need to look it up. But pseudo-hermaphroditism explains congenital adrenal hyperplasia, where females may have a larger clitoris and they are genetically female. And then there are people who are, XY chromosomes, and they are male pseudohermaphrodites, and they are specifically, male pseudohermaphrodites. Now, true hermaphroditism, you're forgetting about that, sweetie. And this right here is a condition that I am very, very, very familiar with. I've known about for a long time. And XX/XY chimerism is also known as having many traits similar to true hermaphroditism, right? Now, you can also have a phenotype that is completely female or male. But obviously, like I said, true hermaphroditism has to do with, you could be genetically both male and female. And reproductively male and female, by the way. You do know that people have ovaries and testes. So some people call them ovotestes, So that means you have ovarian tissue and testicular tissue in one person. So, yeah. And then you were saying about the whole thing about some people specifically are not able to reproduce in one way or another. And then you had that whole weird assumption that intersex people are infertile, which, I mean, some are. Most of the time that's man-made, though. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of the time with people with androgen insensitivity syndrome, who have pseudo-hermaphroditism, of course, many of the time those people specifically have testicles. They've got sperm. They're not developing, obviously, like men do, because they can't process their testosterone, but their testicles are removed. So even if technology made it where they were possibly able to reproduce, they wouldn't be able to because doctors try to remove their parts, their male reproductive sex organs. And you know that society specifically encourages these people to live as female, which can be a problem to many of them because many of them don't identify as females. Now, the assumption was that they identified as females, but there's a good portion that don't too. You know, you should look it up. I mean, look up some different intersex people who have come forward and said how it really affected them negatively, that when they were children, they were mutilated, basically. And that's the thing. This is why I think that people need to understand that intersex people are another sex as well. That people born with both sexes are also a specific sex in themselves. One, he has many rights, just like everybody else. One, on sports. It should not be that these people are encouraged uh, to work as hard as men and try and compete with men. But they're not a man. They're both sexes. You know, that doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't make any sense to compete with women either, in my opinion, because there's been a long history of intersex people beating women. I mean, that's well known and well documented. Now, on the other aspect of this, it's also the fact that, you guys say, oh, females are valid, males are valid. These people deserve not to have hormones injected into their bodies, cross-sex hormones into their bodies, or to have surgery done on their bodies. But you're gonna be like, basically, it's okay to do this to other people who are born both sexes because you don't like the sex they were born. That's not right. That's what I'm trying to say here. Everyone should love their body for how their body is naturally. And that just includes males, females, and people who are born both. No one should be shunned for how they were born naturally. Intersex is beautiful. Being female is beautiful. Being male is beautiful. Transgender people need to learn how to love their bodies naturally, not try and hide their bodies by injecting testosterone or estrogen in their system to hide their true sex. Because they're ashamed of their sex, because they think the way they act doesn't align with how they actually are as a person, as far as their actual natural sex. Your natural sex is your natural sex. And to me, I just kind of feel like a lot of people need to understand that that should be understood as basically acceptable across the board. Because once you start saying that people who are intersex, people who are born both, deserve to have their bodies mutilated, have hormones injected in them before they're 18, before they can really have a right to consent or not, make a good decision on this. You should leave people alone until they're 18, in my opinion, regardless of their sex, male, female, or both. Because why would you want to mutilate people as children when you know that children can't make these kinds of decisions? And no one else should be deciding what someone else's sex is. That's just weird. How they are going to represent themselves in society. So that's all I wanted to say here. You are saying that intersex conditions are defined by karyotype. Do you know what karyotype is? If you know what karyotype is, then you know what genetics are. Now, if you know what genetics are literally your chromosomes, okay? So that's XX, XY. Chimerism clearly is not XY and it's not XX. And also, like it shows here, if you're going to try and go with Y chromosome means male, well, that's not going to work because it already says the female phenotype can occur with this condition, and true hermaphroditism as well. So it kind of is like a variant. It depends on the individual. But my point is, in this situation, is that I mean, I just kind of feel it's annoying when people try and act like just because they heard about one condition that they thought was about being intersex or was about being a hermaphrodite, true hermaphrodite at least, um, they think they know about all of them. You don't know about all of them apparently, because all you brought up was pseudo hermaphroditism. You couldn't even bring up true hermaphroditism. I mean, if you know a lot about it, at least know about true hermaphroditism. You know, conditions that cause true hermaphroditism. I mean, let's be honest. Congenital adrenal hyperplasia does not cause true hermaphroditism, usually. Well, the common causes, like the common types. There are some kinds of congenital adrenal hyperplasia. There are tons of different types of congenital hyperplasia that affect some males, some females, and some will have kind of like signs of true hermaphroditism, I think. But for the most part, it causes pseudo hermaphroditism. Um, so my point is in this situation is that, you know, I do think that you guys really need to actually look up the conditions and not just look up one condition. In my view, like I said, congenital adrenal hyperplasia, it's not even really both sexes. It's a matter of not being able to process your testosterone. It's a male person not being able to process their testosterone. That's it. And in those people, they appear to be female because they don't process their testosterone, which means they don't develop a penis. Instead, they develop what looks like a vagina, but it's not quite because they don't have the whole length to their vagina. And then also, another part of it is they don't obviously have a period, they don't have a cervix, they don't have any of the reproductive organs internally. Um, People just think just because someone doesn't have a penis and because they have breasts, that means that they are female. But I've seen many of them. To me, they look more male than anything. To me, that's just me, you know. Um, but yeah, that's all I have to say in this video. Um, I'm gonna give you the other link to my other video where I'm talking about intersex people who actually do reproduce both ways in one person. I specifically showed a case study. This was a couple months ago. So give me a sec to actually find the video and I'll repost it and then link your name in there. But yeah, other than that, I like your videos in general. I'm subscribed to your channel. It's really cool, your channel. I love it. I'm probably going to respond to your video on men's prisons. That's one I really agree with because that's how I fucking felt. I fucking felt like that when people were having an uproar about a man in a man's prison. Like, sweetie, just because it looks pretty, it still has the same strength. But anyway, that's a whole different story. Anyway, I was just trying to explain to you about intersex conditions, about the fact that there is true hermaphroditism, and I think you're having a problem distinguishing pseudo-hermaphroditism from true hermaphroditism. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, everyone. Comment down below and have a great day. Bye, guys.